Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to, Wrestling with COVID, as we discuss not only wrestling news related with COVID, but also events and adventures, I guess you could call it, that are going on in our lives. I'm Bill, joined with Jim Boystar and Josiah. And last time we came back together we were all kind of grumpy about it, but maybe things have gotten better since last time. Well,
Mm,
we'll wait and see.
all right, so I guess I'll go first because I don't have that much. Obviously, I'm in the tri-state area, and the New York City has put in the keys to NYC in place, but unfortunately, I haven't really been able to go out like I've wanted to experience this. So I don't really know how well they're enforcing it and or if they're not really enforcing it. I can tell you the biggest story that I'm aware of is supposedly at a restaurant there was um, someone that was asked to put their mask on from Texas, I believe,
Mm,
and that got into a big argument and a fight. However, since then, now new information might be coming out that a racial slur might have been said. So it's still under investigation if it was a fight over mask wearing or if there was a racial slur that caused the argument.
mm-hmm,
Um,
Probably both.
mm-hmm.
yeah, I could see that, but either way, I don't want to. I'm not going to go too in depth because I think that's currently an investigation. Um, but mostly, I called this Wrestling with COVID episode for Josiah, who said he had a lot going on. Bill, we'll get to you after him
Right.
to talk about your return to work in the school system
Mm-hmm.
um, down in Maryland. So, Josiah, you had an election up there in Canada. Tell us about it and tell me the main reason why you had messaged me saying, "Oh, there's a lot going on up here," and that was last week, though, before the election.
Yes. If you remember in the last episode, we talked about how we were removing restrictions in my province
Yes.
and opening it up to the rest of the Canada while we were only like 65% fully vaccinated in our province, and how the other Atlantic provinces were not really comfortable with us doing that in my province, and how they were sending kids back to school without mask requirements and all this kind of stuff where they can't be protected right now because they can't be vaccinated. And I said I have a fear this is all going to backfire. Well, it did exactly as I and many other people predicted. Um, it started like a slow trickle of cases every few days. It was like 22 cases announced here and there. On the 10th of September, we had 24 new cases announced, making our active cases up to 136. And then we had, let me see, on the day after, 3 days later, so this is over 3 days, they announced 122 new cases, making it 229 cases. And then each day from that point, there has not been less than 30 cases a day, with us hitting a maximum of 77 a few days ago. There was 63 there, 51. And then over one of those days, they announced 52. And then they announced 199 new cases over like a 2 to 3 day period. So we're seeing a massive increase in cases, and now we have like something like 500, 600 active cases in our province, which I know it sounds small compared to the rest of the world, but for us that's a big deal.
Mhm.
And because we are a smaller city, it cases like that, or smaller province I should say, it's all across the province, but mostly in my city. And there's the Moncton region and the Fredericton region. Those are the two biggest ones. Then St. John is probably third. That is the three big cities in the province. Um, and anyways, uh, on the 10th, they were like, when they started announcing this, by the time we got that, on the 13th, they announced, okay, we're going to have to take some stricter regulations here because it's clear the Delta variant is in our province now. They're all Delta cases. So it took a while to arrive here, but it's arrived. We've seen a massive increase of infections in children. We have had more people hospitalized. It's still fine, but we've had a lot of people hospitalized. And we've had one death, which I know sounds, again, low because it's one death, but our government decided that was unacceptable. And they decided it was time to completely change how they're approaching this. And they have mandated a vaccine passport that starts tomorrow. So you can access, you cannot access non-essential services without proof of double vaccination now. And for the duration of the pandemic, whenever the pandemic ends, the restrictions end. But and masks are now mandatory in all public spaces as well. So we have masking and mandatory vaccination for these things. There has been a bit of an uproar from the crazy COVID conspiracy theorists who think it's just a measure of government control, just like they're the same crazy smallpox conspiracy theorists from 100 years ago. It's the exact same thing. And my church, even though they were not required to do so, are now requiring proof of double vaccination, which is funny because I was asked to preach a sermon last Sunday, and I was preaching about how we should comply to this because this is not an issue of religious freedom or anything like that. It's like, it's just a government mandate to keep people healthy, and we should comply. And the pastor announced, without knowing what I was preaching, that we would be requiring proof of double vaccination. So we ended up working together accidentally for our message. That happens all the time with me and him, which is really funny. But anyways, this has proven there are a lot of people who thought this was going to be like, oh, there's going to be an uproar. We're going to have the MAGA light people show up because we have a small undercurrent of that in Canada. And we thought it was going to be reflected in the election with people being angry about it. But our province is one of the ones that did that. One of the provinces who it's basically the south of Canada, if that makes sense. It's like the Texas of Canada. It's Alberta. And the premier came out and apologized for removing COVID restrictions, and he instituted a vaccine passport as well because the COVID cases are actually insane there, comparable to some American places as well. And given the smaller population, again, of most cities in Canada than you would get in the U.S., that's saying something. But he actually apologized. He said, I was wrong about COVID. We're going to take this seriously from now on.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, I'm certainly not holding my breath for Texas and Florida in regards to that over here. So.
Yeah.
kind of the same with California too.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought California. I don't know. I guess I'm not in tune with California. I thought they were not as bad as those two.
I think California. It's certain counties that are like that. Versus the state as a whole is actually pretty good, but certain counties are really crazy. But yeah, I was very impressed, and we have a conservative government in my province as well, and they announced that. So I was impressed they changed direction because they were indicating they weren't going to do this kind of thing. And they saw some kids in the hospital, and they thought, well, we were wrong. This is affecting children more than we realized, and we need to take this seriously. And they actually put the lives of the kids first, which actually
we're not going to
impressed me. What's that?
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because I mean, and for anyone that thinks, oh no, maybe we will. We already have a problem with our schools. It's called school shootings.
Yeah.
And nothing's really being done about that. So why would I expect anything to be done about the children at this point for something else?
It's something I said online and in person to many people before, but the measure of a society is how we take care of our most vulnerable, and our most vulnerable are definitely children, and many societies are really bad at taking care of them.
Yep.
And I was very impressed that they finally put them first. They didn't at first here, but they did, and it scared them. They saw little kids getting sick, and it scared them.
Well, to be fair, this and to them, I'll say this much: there is that early, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on when this might have changed, but the early indication of this virus was that it wasn't affecting children. So their thing was probably like, well, it's not affecting them anyways, so we should be fine. But then, like you said, the children started getting affected, and now they're like, whoa, okay,
yeah,
we're wrong. It's a different variant. Now we got to do something.
And it's not just that. Even with the standard variant, some kids are having trouble long term with breathing, brain fog, physical symptoms for months after having the virus as well. So even though it wasn't fatal to them, it was still caused a lot of damage. And I think they're starting to consider that now, especially since the Delta variant makes it more obvious that it's happening.
Right.
And I am very glad that we're taking that seriously, that we're mandating vaccine passports. The people who are angry about it are a very vocal, tiny minority.
100%, yeah, I agree with that.
And I am very proud of my government for standing up to them and calling them what they are, which is selfish. And they have no understanding of the science, and they think it's all fake and a conspiracy, and they're wrong. They're simply wrong. I know people who've had this. I know people right now who are quarantining because their kids came into contact with someone at school, and like, so it's personal for me beyond that. Beyond like I knew you had it, for example, Jim, and like, so really from early on in this has been a personal thing for me because I've had friends who had it, but now I have my friends' kids in danger, and that makes me angry.
See, yeah, I don't understand I don't know how Canada is, but, and I've discussed this on this series before, the United States' obsession of kids got to be in the classroom.
Yep.
We've spent I know I've said this before, but we've spent, first of all, let me just say, I don't have any kids. I'm not married. So in some ways, I have a less of a horse in regards to, in the whole, the children's safety. What I'm looking at also as is how much money did we spend because people were obsessed with, you got to have the kids in the schools, because we would open the schools, then close them, then open them and close them. Yep. It's ridiculous. And is Canada like that, where there were people obsessed with, we got to have the kids in school. It doesn't matter if you can do it at home.
It depends on the province and which party is in control. The conservatives tend to be more, we got to have them in school. The liberals tend to be a bit more moderate, where they're kind of willing to work both ways. And the further left from that is like, no, we should probably have kids at home until we can vaccinate them and make sure they're safe.
Which, real quick, I'd like to bring that up because that is a topic. I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong here, if you even know.
Okay.
That we are about to get approval, if not already here in the States, for Pfizer for ages 5 to 12.
And
yeah, that is correct.
And
it's not approved yet, though. It's going to. It's not approved, right? Yeah, right. Okay.
It has actually been approved in Canada, but we're not doing it yet. We're waiting to get final approval, should I say. Okay. Initial steps have been taken, so it's probably going to be approved around the same time as the U.S. for that here, and
go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to throw this out there real quick, because I always joke with Bill how sometimes I'll make these scheduled recordings and look, the next day things are already old news. Mm-hmm. This is very much a case for this episode, because I believe right now, and in definitely tomorrow and maybe in additional days afterwards, the United Nations are meeting in New York. So who knows tomorrow, by the time this is even posted, that news doesn't come out that, hey, we're going to start these children's vaccinations on Monday. So I just
Yeah.
want people to be mindful that this is being recorded on September 21st at 7:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead, Josiah. Continue. I just wanted to throw it out there because I was like, oh, this is all going to be outdated, isn't it?
Yeah, because a lot of things are happening really quickly, right? So, yeah, I'm looking at it now. I'm actually looking at the active cases right now in my province as well. We now have over 500 active cases, 65 new cases announced today. This is probably going to continue for a few weeks because it's always late. Like it's like 2 weeks behind, with the announcements. So we're probably going to be hitting close to 1,000 within the next month, I would guess. And that would be the highest we've ever had. We had 77 cases in one day, which was the government got very angry when that was announced. And most of the cases are in unvaccinated people.
Right, that's the thing.
It's like between 80 and 92% of our cases are unvaccinated people. And the rest are one dose or breakthrough cases with 2 doses, which are exceedingly rare. And the deaths are unvaccinated, the hospitalized are unvaccinated, and it's just we have 24 people in our ICU across the province. We have 3 major hospitals in the province, maybe 4. There's 2 in my city, and so we probably have enough for 100. Like ICU COVID beds. I think for ventilators, we only have 50 ventilators in the province as a whole. So we're getting close to that number if someone's in ICU. We have 15 in ICU, 24 in hospital, and the ones in ICU will be ventilated. So that's like, it doesn't sound like a lot compared to elsewhere, but when you think, well, we only have 50 ventilators, 15 people on ventilator is that's a high number, right. and it's going to keep going up likely over the next few days.
Right.
And we're going to start seeing our system really pressured, and we're seeing protests from the far right group, the People's Party of Canada. They're basically Make America Great Light, and there is one satisfactory thing when I talk about the election. I'll explain why that's satisfactory about what happened with them. But they're a very vocal minority, and they're very active in my province. But even then, they did not secure a single seat in the election, which makes me happy. But they've been kind of threatening violence against nurses and doctors, and it's like, these people are trying to save your life when you're in the ICU.
Yeah.
Because you're the ones that are in the ICU. And it's like you're threatening violence, and you're blocking people from getting into the hospital. There's cancer patients who can't get their chemo. It's really upsetting.
I'm definitely one of those people that have said, like, yeah, you know what? If there's a shortage in the hospitals of vaccinated and unvaccinated people, put the unvaccinated people on the back of the line. They chose to get on back. Do you remember? Bill would know this. I don't know if this is a thing that you're aware of for some reason. Did you ever hear of the Crate Challenge?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and Bill, you know the Crate Challenge, yes. Right? I was discussing someone in work because one doctor was like, "Guys, we're asking you guys not to do." Bill, can you explain to people what the Crate Challenge is first before I continue?
Okay, so what the Crate Challenge was, because I don't know if it's still popular or not, is you had like a small pyramid of crates set up, and you had to walk up the crates, get to the top, and then go and walk down the crates. Like, basically, try to do it without falling on your ass.
And most people fell on their ass because that's really hard to do, actually. Well, one of the people that I read about was saying, like, please stop doing the Crate Challenge because our hospitals are already, really has a lot of patients in it. And I was like, just kick the unvaccinated people out then. they chose not to get the vaccine. Like, I mean, like, if there's help the people that really need it, but if it's a choice between the crate challenge people and the unvaccinated people that chose to be unvaccinated, guess what? Help the crate challenge people. That's pretty much where I'm at now.
Yeah, I totally get that sentiment, but it's one of those things where doctors promise to treat anyone who comes through their door, not and it's kind of an ethical conundrum for them. But,
and then someone, the person worked with, like, they're like, oh, that's stupid because the crate challenge people are just stupid. They shouldn't have done that. I'm like, yeah, but here's the difference. The crate challenge people didn't hurt anyone but themselves. The unvaccinated people are hurting other people at this point.
Yeah, because they're spreading.
So that's why crate challenge people should take a bigger priority than unvaccinated people that chose to be unvaccinated. And I stand by that.
And the worst part about it is that they're giving this stupid thing a chance to mutate.
Exactly.
And like, they're like, oh, we'll just have natural immunity. Well, yeah, but the more it infects people, the more chances it has to mutate and infect more. You want to cut it off. That's why you want to have as many people vaccinated as possible.
I mean, that's why we got this Delta variant, because of it mutated into something else.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things going on here too, with all that, there are people arguing for those things, and they're arguing these vaccine passports are a new thing, and no, they're not at all. We've had vaccine requirements for school, for all these things forever, for travel. Like, there are certain Asian countries you can't, or other countries anyways, that you can't travel to unless you're vaccinated against yellow fever.
I'll tell you right now, that's Bolivia. I've been checking because I've been trying to go down to Bolivia. That's where I was born. And I have looked at right now. I can't go down there because they have a 10-day quarantine. And but yeah, they have yellow fever, and I had to ask my doctor. I'm like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to get a shot for this. And he's like, well, when you're ready to go, feel free to give us a call, and we'll tell you there's a place and they named like 2 cities that are around where I am. So yeah, this thing exists. They exist in other places.
And historically, I did some research, and I found a Time magazine article, and it was from the 1800s, and they did this for smallpox. On trains, there was a doctor. He would walk around and to ask every passenger if they were vaccinated or not, and if they weren't, or if they couldn't provide proof of vaccination, like with documents, he'd look for the scar on their arm for it, and if they didn't have the distinctive scar, he'd vaccinate them on the spot or kick them off the train.
Oh wow!
and there were people who were not allowed access to public services, that were not allowed to vote without having the smallpox vaccine. And the same thing happened with polio. I was talking to an old man in my church. He's in his 70s, and he's a very good friend of mine. And we were talking after the service, and he mentioned the polio vaccine and how he was signed up for it right away by his mother when it came out, and how they had to show people the polio vaccination to go to school and things like that. And he was baffled by it's mostly baby boomers and naive millennials who are refusing to get vaccinated, and he's showing this like he's completely back. Like, we've had 100 years of medical science or more researched into vaccines. Why aren't we embracing this? Right. This was the easiest thing in the world to embrace. And the funny thing is that parents were sending their kids willingly for the polio vaccine because they knew how horrible polio was. Yeah. But the truth is, the COVID vaccine's way safer than the polio one. And it's way safer than the smallpox one was, because we have over 100 years of research done into vaccines since then.
Right.
It's not like this all came about out of nowhere.
And the other weird thing I find is that, because obviously a lot of the media or whatnot, and even just people in general, they're like, yeah, it's mostly Trump people. And I'm not saying that that's not true or not, but what I am saying is I heard myself Trump actually say, get the vaccine.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, he did.
I can tell you exactly when it was, too, because I watched one of his rallies. Whenever WWE SummerSlam was, because I could not watch that show, and I was like, "What else is on? Oh, Trump stuff." And I mean, this is something for a whole episode in itself, but definitely saw similarities of Trump people and WWE fans that I noticed. But in that speech, he says, and I'm not saying he says it for a long, for more than like one or two sentences, but he says it. So I don't understand that aspect of, and like I said, whatever day WWE SummerSlam was, I think he was in Alabama. I'm not really that sure.
I know exactly what you're talking about. The crowd booed him.
Yeah,
the crowd booed him, really, yeah. So that is, and that's how I know that he actually said it. I was like, okay, so the Trump people, why are you still not taking it then if you're supposed to be following him?
It doesn't help that they have the senators who support Trump saying don't get vaccinated because it's a conspiracy, and congressmen like the Abbott and DeSantis.
Right. No, I agree with that, but at the same time, like if I'm brainwashed by someone, I don't think I'm listening to anyone but that one
person. Yeah. So it was really weird. But then they go on Fox News and they have Tucker Carlson, who is their prophet, I guess, a prophet of their cult, talking about how it's all a conspiracy and horse paste is going to save you and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's just so baffling to me. And then that's actually a good transitional point into the election in Canada.
Yes, I want to know how the bloc did. My favorite Canadian party, I guess.
The Quebec separatists, the Bloc Québécois.
The Bloc Québécois, right?
The Bloc Québécois.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little about the election, because I do want to get to Bill and get on these wrestling topics as well.
Yes, so this will be pretty quick. The election, everyone felt it was pointless for the Liberals to try to call it. They have a minority government, which means they do not have the majority of seats in Parliament. You have to have 170 seats to be a majority in Parliament. Right. And they had a minority government previously, and they decided, because their performance has been relatively good during the pandemic, they were going to try to call an election early instead of once every 4 years, because you can do that if you're in a minority government. If you feel like Parliament cannot work together, you need a majority of Parliament to agree on something to work together. And if they cannot work together, if in a minority government, the Governor General dissolves Parliament at the request of the Prime Minister, and then an election is called. That's basically how that works. The Liberals were saying, we can't work with the Conservatives and the NDP, so we want an election called. And rather amusingly, the Conservatives at NDP released statements saying, no, we still have faith in Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. We're willing to work with him. And Trudeau pushed forward with the election anyways. This led to what we would consider a moderately long campaign in Canada, which would be hilarious for Americans to hear this. It was 36 days long. That's our election campaigns, 36 days. And that's considered a longer one. So we don't mess around. Our federal elections happen as soon as they're called. You just go right to it. And we do one English language debate, one French language debate, and that's it. And then you go vote. And we keep it simple and all that, but so it's very civil. It's very simple to do. Voting is easy. There's no long waits unless, there were longer ones in larger cities because of COVID restrictions. But very simple and easy election went through, and the Liberals ended up exactly where they were before. So we have another minority government with a conservative opposition. Exactly the same situation we were in before. The only difference is the NDP gained 2 seats from where they were, and the Bloc Québécois, I guess they only gained 1. The Bloc Québécois gained 2.
Hey, that's one more. They got 2?
Well, they gained 2 from where they were. They have 32 seats
that's progress.
in Parliament. But they only run in Quebec. So they don't run anywhere else in Canada, so there's no chance of them ever winning. They just run because they feel like they can represent Quebec better in Parliament.
I'm sorry, it's 2 more seats that they have that they didn't have before. That's what matters to me.
The NDP have 1 more seat than they had, and they have 25.
All right, can I just really quick make it real clear that I do not know one policy of the black, and so I just like the name, and so don't come at me. So don't come at me if like, oh no, they're the worst party because they have the worst beliefs. I couldn't tell you one belief. I just like the name.
Well, they tend to be they're very separatist. They want Quebec to be recognized as an individual nation within Canada.
Okay.
And it's they're very much so reviled in the rest of Canada. The rest of Canada does not like them.
If you like them, why don't you let them go?
Well, I've asked that question and I've never gotten a solid answer, especially because they're a separatist party. It's like, why are we allowing separatists in our election? It doesn't make any sense. But
I feel like, was there someone, Bill, maybe you would know better than me, was there a state in the United States over the past couple of years that were trying to separate? I feel like there was.
Texas.
Yeah, probably Texas.
Was it Texas? All right, maybe it was, yeah. Okay.
But it would be similar to like in the UK where Scotland did a referendum on whether or not they should be independent of the UK. And there was a referendum in the 90s with Quebec, and they lost. The Bloc Québécois lost, and Quebec remained a part of Canada. And anytime that topic has been broached again, it has been shut down. So the Bloc has kind of moved more towards just advocating for Quebec affairs. Mm-hmm. And they tend. It's weird because when I say conservative, it's not the same, especially with the Bloc. It is not the same. They're actually a left. They're a left-leaning party, the Bloc Québécois. But as far as it goes for Quebec affairs, they would be considered conservative for the Quebec people, meaning that they want to protect French tradition and those kinds of things. But they. But I mean, as far as universal health care goes and all that kind of stuff, they support those kinds of things. So I mean, every party in Canada supports that except for our MAGA Light party. So, but I'll give you the final numbers.
Yes, please. I want to move on to Bill's return to school, basically.
The Liberal Party has been elected to Parliament with 158 seats. That they are leading in right now. They have 148 elected, 10 leading, so they're still counting those polls. The Conservatives actually won the popular vote, but they did not win the number of seats required because they won areas that tend to have less seats, and I hate to put it this way, but less educated as well. People are not going to like that, but that's just what it is. And they have 119 seats. The Bloc Québécois have 34. The NDP have 25. The Green Party have 2. And the MAGA Light Party has 0. They only got 818,000 votes. Compared to the Liberals, who got 5.2 million. The Conservatives got 5.4. The Bloc got 1.2 million. NDP got nearly 3 million. And the Green Party got nearly 400,000, but they won their seats in their areas. So that's why they have 2. And so it's very, very nice that our far-right group, and really it was anti-vaxxers voting for them this time because they promoted an anti-vaxxer agenda. Their policies are very racist, openly racist. And that does not fly well in Canada, and I am very proud that our country soundly rejected them and did not give them 1 seat. So,
all right. So, Bill, you went back to school. You grabbed your backpack and went back to school.
Yep, I did.
How are things in school?
Okay.
In regards to COVID.
So, well, I got to begin with the first day. So I am in my class, and about an hour into the school year, I'm called to work in another room for the day. So remember that for what's going to happen soon.
Okay.
So first day goes pretty smoothly, no problem. Next, excuse me. Next day I go in, I talk to my boss. She tells me that the teacher that I'm supposed to be working with has COVID.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm thinking to myself, oh shit. You know. So because she has COVID, the classroom was locked for 10 days. Not 10 school days, 10 regular days.
Okay.
And they had all these different vents and stuff in the classroom to basically kill the germs. So, rest of the week goes all right. Then we get to last Monday, and I said this to my family. It was my hell day.
Oh.
And actually it was more of like the school's hell day. Because we had 2 or 3 classes have to close down because kids were either in contact with someone who had COVID or they might have had symptoms, and it was just a mess. Like, it was so bad. Our nurse quit that day. It was
Question for you. Now, how do you know that a kid might have been in contact with someone with COVID? Does the kid fill out a form? Did the parent fill out a form? Are you called from the home? How does that happen?
Well, they have to have some kind of, symptom that we think, might be COVID. Like if they have a cough, if they have like a runny nose. I'm just going by like some of like the lower stuff.
Sure. Okay.
Or maybe like something like the kid threw up or the kid has a temperature. They would call the parents, who, well, right now wouldn't be a nurse because we don't have a nurse. And they would, say to them, hey, your kid has such and such. You've got to come pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
So that day, like I said, we must have had 2 or 3 classes like shut down. And I'm texting my sister because she used to work in the same county that I did. And I asked her, how many confirmed cases is there supposed to be for the entire school to shut down?
Is there a number?
There is. And what she said, and this might have changed,
Sure.
but at the time, it's 3 confirmed cases, and the schools, or not all the schools in the county, but a specific school has to close.
Yes. Okay.
So the principal was talking to somebody from the county, like a higher up, see what to do. And nothing really came of it because we were in school the rest of that week, with not nearly that bad, of numbers, or not nearly that many cases. So there are kids that, are getting sick. Either it be throwing up or they have a temperature, And then Monday, the Monday we just had, was supposed to have been the day that the teacher that I work with was coming back. and she's fully vaccinated. I just
Mm-hmm.
just want to put that out there, fully vaccinated. Still did not feel good, and she was going to get tested maybe today or yesterday to see if she still has it.
Okay.
And one of the things is when, like, if when a class is closed, the students that are sick have to be quarantined, and it gets to a point where they might have to end up doing virtual learning or hybrid learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of a mess in the beginning of the year. I know in another county in Maryland, this was about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. They had 1,000 cases of kids being sick, and
Okay.
and the whole state is mask mandated in the schools. You have to wear them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a roller coaster right now because you don't know if the kids are going to get sick, if they have any of the symptoms. Um, I mean, there are some days where it's better than others, and there are some days like last week where it was just an abomination of a day. It was just a god awful day, and everybody was affected by it.
So now, as of this recording on the Tuesday, does your school have a nurse?
No, we have.
Are you already plans to getting a nurse, or
I
just
no. They're
they're just
trying
like fuck
to.
it, we're
What
not
what
even
they're
trying now.
what they're doing is, for the time being, is they're getting like substitute nurses.
Okay.
So while they're looking for a new nurse, we're getting either a
So we're
substitute
getting
nurse,
somewhere there. That's what I was asking. Is there any kind of nurse whatsoever? I guess that's what I was really trying to ask there.
and sometimes we'll use like the nurse from the middle school, which is a few blocks away, to come help us for a little bit. So
You have her on loan.
yeah, on loan. Yep, you got it.
Wow. Sounds like a terrible time. I'll have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I get Josiah. Do you have any questions for Bill?
Not really. That pretty much says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So and then just I guess one last thing for before we get to the wrestling topics for you is, so the teacher that you are supposed to be teaching with, who was supposed to come back but didn't come back, she's getting tested, or you're not really that sure? You just know she wasn't in.
She was getting tested. She's
Again,
waiting
so she has
for the results.
Oh, I guess it's one of the, like a PCR. That's the one that takes like 3 or 4 days, I think.
Yeah.
Because there is one that you can take that's like 15 minutes to a half hour long. Obviously, it's not as accurate. But
right.
I took that was the one of the ones I took on. I had to take basically when I got back from Florida because I had work the next day, and I was like, well, I gotta at least know if I'm going to work tomorrow. So give me both of them. Give me the one that's in 15 minutes to a half hour or whatever they say it is, and then give me that's more accurate for 3 or 4 days because work is not going to let me work from home. We've already discussed this on this particular series, so I need to know if I'm going to have to be forced to stay home and tell them that because I'm not taking it voluntarily, especially if I feel okay. Okay, who has the first wrestling topic here? Because I don't have any topics, to be honest with you. I don't have anything for the show. This was, if I were to say this was a more, Josiah said there's lots to say, so let's make a show.
Right. I guess I will have the first one since Josiah had to go somewhere real quick.
Okay.
Ring of Honor, they recently had their pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor. The attendance and I'm going to mention the attendance for this purpose. It was like 400 plus.
Okay.
And then they announced that for the remainder of this year, with the I think with the exception of Final Battle, they're not going to have fans in attendance for any of the shows.
Okay.
But the thing is, because I checked the ROH website, they never had, like, dates scheduled to
run.
Right. So basically, it's kind of them just being, we're just being cautious. We're not going to run anything, we're not going to have anything with fans pretty much for the rest of the year, except maybe Final Battle, which isn't until December.
Right.
And who knows when, or what it's going to be like in 3 months when we do get the Final Battle.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, and I'm certainly looking at December as well. We've talked on the last episode how I have a cruise in December technically, but even I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it's too early for me to actually say, okay, well, that looks good enough for me. Like, I feel like I'm going to be looking at early November to see, hey, what's going on with this? What are the restrictions? And then if I decide to, I might opt out or I might continue to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised by that a little bit, I guess, that they're not going to have any fans at all for the rest of the year, except for maybe Final Battle. Yeah, Josiah, do you have anything to add for Ring of Honor and them not having any fans for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I have to say it again, and we've said this multiple times throughout our episodes, but Ring of Honor is often taking the most responsible choice in light of COVID. They see the cases and they thought, well, we need to protect our talent and our staff and our fans, and we need to make the reasonable choice, even if it's going to hurt our momentum. We're making that choice, and
I mean, I would argue that they don't have any momentum at all.
Well, part of it is because of the choice to have no fans for as long as they have.
I don't think they had much momentum before COVID, if we're honest.
That's true.
Right.
They were hurt. They were hurt very badly by
that they were they were at their peak. AEW certainly hurt with having to go that route. I think ROH for the most part. In fact, part of it might be also a business move in that they're like, I don't know if we're really going to be able to sell anyone. Maybe we'll take these next couple of months to actually build things up and just start the new year, and that's when we start having fans.
Well,
to make sure that we fill out arenas.
In their defense, on the show that they sold the 400 tickets for, that was all the tickets they had on sale. So they did actually sell out. It's only 400 people, but they did actually sell out every ticket they had on sale. So I don't take that as a bad thing, but it is a small number, so it ends up sounding worse than it is. But I mean, right now, as far as handling the pandemic responsibly, I still have to praise what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But no, let's not pull punches. They are not a hot promotion right now.
No, I don't.
Right. And I say that as someone who actually really likes their product. Mm-hmm. So I actually really, really enjoy it when I watch it. So I think goodwill can be lost in a second, but takes forever to build. And the example of Ring of Honor losing goodwill so quickly after the Madison Square Garden show is a stark example of that, where they have only been in decline since then. And it's going to probably that took a year worth of decline. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 years of quality booking and quality shows to even get some sort of momentum back. And they have been playing around online on Twitter with the Forbidden Door stuff. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see them involved with some stuff with AEW down the line. It's still all of that is still a politically difficult situation.
So
But
I'd like to bring up
it
something with
was
the ticket.
telling to me that New Japan has indicated they have partnership with them and they're going to be working with them again, of course. So, for better or worse, New Japan is an extremely loyal company. If you're in a favorable relationship with them, they are going to stick with you unless you screw something up really bad, like TNA messing up Okada. Um, and anyways, all that to say, I'm still optimistic about Ring of Honor, but it's going to take a long time.
All right, so I just want to bring something up in regards to the ticket thing, because I did forget that this happened and this was a thing. Now, if we remember, what was the name of the show again? Death Before was it Death
Yeah,
Before
Death Before
Dishonor?
Dishonor.
Yeah, that was the one that
There.
just happened. What? What your side? Oh, what? Is he gone?
He said, I can't hear you guys.
Well, yeah. See, maybe sign off and come. So what I'm saying here is, remember for Death Before Dishonor, they had sold tickets in like May and July, May, June, July, or whatnot.
Mhm.
Before the Death Before Dishonor show happened, a few days before, they had said that they are. Well, now I keep getting distracted. All I hear is beeping. What's going on?
Oh, no, Josiah's, his headphones died, so he'll be right back.
All right, so here's my point, and it's too bad because this is a counterpoint to Josiah because there's too much like he's saying about the 400 tickets thing or whatnot, and that's fine and well. Here's the thing though, so Bill, you would probably remember seeing this if anything. A few days beforehand, they said something. They said that like, oh, this is when the Delta variant was like really starting to gain steam.
Mm-hmm.
That like a few days before their show, they had mentioned, oh, by the way, we are now implementing our mask mandate.
Right.
So, and which is understandable because a lot of people were doing that at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though I did not get a ticket, I was curious because this sounded a lot like in the last episode of Wrestling with COVID. Do you remember my Chicago the musical story?
Yes.
Right, where I got the full refund there. I was like, this sounds a lot like that. Like that people should get a full refund because this is something that wasn't sold. Like this is not, people weren't expecting to wear masks. So I decided to write them. And I was like, hey, out of curiosity, do you think if since there was no mask mandate when the tickets were bought, is it possible for myself or someone else to get a full refund in regards to this? No answer. So my thing is this. Yes, those 400 tickets were sold. What if some of those 400 tickets weren't able to get a refund when they wanted to be? Now I could have gone. Well, actually, I couldn't have gone much further, because if I were to email Ring of Honor, I'm sure what they would have asked me is what my order number was.
Yeah.
And since I don't have an order number, I can't do anything else there. But the fact that they didn't even reply on social media to, I think, a standard question has me very suspicious. What are your thoughts, Bill?
I mean, you brought up a couple of good points there.
It's exactly the situation with my Chicago the musical.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that you'd get, a response right away. And then the other thing, and I'm not trying to defend Ring of Honor here for this.
Sure.
But
By the way, is Josiah back or no?
yeah, he just muted until we were done talking. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's what he said.
I'm here.
There we go.
Okay. All right, so go ahead, Bill.
The thing is that canceled, like, because originally it wasn't going to be in Philadelphia. It was going to be in Florida.
Okay.
So they had about a month and a half to sell tickets in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And they probably didn't go as fast as they wanted to, or they might not have. I mean, it was a sold out show, like Josiah had said, but still, if someone's asking for a refund, you gotta give them a refund.
Right, and to be fair, I don't really have, I guess, official confirmation that that was the case and that they weren't providing one. Again, obviously, if I was a ticket holder, I would have emailed as well. But it's one of those things that was making me wonder because, again, with Chicago the musical, they were pretty upfront on giving me it. Ring of Honor didn't really seem that upfront about it, if that was even a policy. Are you there, Josiah? Did you hear anything, and can you hear us right now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. How much did you hear? Because I don't know if I really want to go through all of it again.
I heard pretty much all of it. I was only out for a little bit.
Okay. Do you want to give a response before we go on to the next topic?
Well, I think. Sorry, I just heard a dog howling outside. It caused me to pause for a second. I think they should offer refunds in that case. But their lack of statement on it is a bit strange to me. With that said, there were 400 people in that building, so I don't know. I know they offered refunds to obviously to everyone in Florida when they moved the show, and
which obviously that's a whole. No one's going to go from Florida to Philadelphia. No one should be expected to go from Florida to Philadelphia just because they bought a ticket or something in Florida.
Yeah, especially in a pandemic, right? So, they had no problem refunding all those, and I think there was like 1,000 tickets sold in Florida. Maybe not. Maybe it was less than that. I don't know. But but anyways, it was probably less than that actually. Now that I think of it, but they. So they really did only have the month and a half, and there was really, I think probably even less. They announced the moving to Philly a month and a half before the show, and really tickets were probably only on sale for like 3 or 4 weeks, realistically. But with that said, they probably should have offered refunds with if someone wasn't interested in the mask mandate.
Right.
But
just like Chicago the musical, they had no problem.
Yeah. So I think they probably should have offered refunds in that case.
I think they should have at least made. I think a statement should have been said because and this is what made me write them to begin with. I was reading the statement that they put out, like about the whole we're putting masks on. You know, you gotta have your mask on during this. I'm like, oh, interesting. They don't have anything that says like, oh, if you want a refund, here's the thing. So that's what made me ask them in the first place.
They might have a refund policy in general on their website that would apply.
I mean, like I said, to be fair, I didn't email them directly because again, my response would be short-lived because I don't have a real order number because I don't have a ticket. So I didn't really do that. But I'm just saying, I don't think. I just don't. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that on the surface, that's what it looks like. Could it be something different? Absolutely, it can be. But on the surface, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and really, And
I'm doing the same thing. And I'm doing the same thing with my cruise. That's why I'm not. That's why I'm like going to look at it in like November to late November. If there's too many restrictions, I'll be like, this isn't what I signed up for at the beginning of July. I should get a full refund for it. You know, to me, it's just a matter of like, I get that the world is changing and whatnot. You know, you don't know whether, with these variants or whatnot. But as we've discussed on this show before, not even just the wrestling business, businesses in general should be more flexible because of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
This pandemic.
And I agree that businesses should be more flexible. But I imagine a lot of places are going to start going, you assume the risk instead to avoid having to do that. But honestly, I think as a show of good faith, they should do that. I am much more willing to do business with a company that is willing to negotiate on those things rather than, rather than just telling me to screw off. We got your money. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I agree with you. All right, Bill. What's another topic that you have? You said I think you had like 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Josiah had a New Japan one. That's what it was.
Yeah. So this is gonna kind of coincide with the recent announcement of some of the travel sanctions being lifted in the U.S. with, like going to Europe and other places as long as you've taken your COVID shots.
Oh yeah, isn't WWE going to Saudi Arabia?
They are doing that, but they also announced that they are doing another UK tour this November.
Mm-hmm.
They have 8 shows scheduled from November 3rd to November 10th. And SmackDown and Raw obviously will be taped, so that probably means that I will skip that Raw because I don't do well with taped Raws in Europe.
Okay.
But yeah, and currently, as of this recording, they have a mini tour in the UK that's supposed to end tomorrow. And
they're in the UK now?
Yeah, like I think it's only the SmackDown brand that went.
Okay.
And so they're going to do that, and then they're going to go back in about a month, a little less than a month, well, a little about a month and a half, back to England to do another UK tour.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are in the UK.
Well, the UK rules would be they're actually similar to Canada, although their leader is a little, well, he's a tiny Donald Trump. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So I don't really know how that's going to go. I'm fine with them doing tours and stuff like that as long as they do it safely. But there's going to be no shows in Canada for a while. That I can say that for sure.
Okay.
That's not changing anytime soon that I can see. We are once we get, I think federally we're going to have a vaccine passport mandated, and once we get there, we'll end up probably seeing those stuff start to open for vaccinated folks.
You know what's interesting? I just thought of the one thing and obviously I don't care about the WWE actual on-air product, but what does make this interesting is, is it possible that we can find out exactly who's unvaccinated on the SmackDown brand because of this? Because if they're
no, and I think, and I actually believe WWE has made vaccination mandatory for their talent. So, I believe so. At least I know for all members of the PC, if you're coming to a tryout, you have to be vaccinated. So it would not shock me if they made it mandatory for the wrestlers themselves to all be vaccinated as well.
I'm going to go the opposite. I would be surprised if they did it. And here's why. It's because, you hear about the people that might want to be leaving the company. Or just say, I don't want the vaccine. Oh, what? Oh, you got to let me go? Oh, too bad. That's what I wanted anyway.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if that ended up happening, but
that's why I don't think there's a vaccine mandate in WWE.
Maybe there isn't. I know there definitely was for people who tried out, for sure. Any of the tryouts, you have to show proof of vaccination.
That I believe, because what are they going to do? They're not signed anyway, so yeah, they don't have any. At least, I mean, I guess I don't know the class, but they don't have any name value in their eyes, so.
Either way, we're not going to be told either way, because WWE doesn't tell anything about any of that stuff.
Yep.
And like even when people contract COVID, they don't tell anyone. Right. And I mean, most companies wouldn't for privacy reasons, unless it was something like they were involved in a major feud, like Drew McIntyre was. And I mean, or in the case when Jon Moxley got it, like in AEW, it made sense because they were involved in major storylines.
Yeah.
But I don't really know about that. In the end, the chances of someone contracting the virus, I mean, pretty much everyone is going to get it at some point, at the rate that it is going. Mm-hmm. The question is, how severe will it be? Will you be vaccinated to make it less severe, or will you be unvaccinated and hospitalized?
Right. All right, Bill. Do you have anything to add to this? Otherwise, we'll go to Josiah's New Japan topic.
Nope, I'm good.
Right. So wait, so are we gonna make a bet, Josiah, on if WWE has mandatory vaccinations versus them not having? because you seem to think that they did make it mandatory, and I gave you my argument why it wouldn't be
I actually have
mandatory.
no idea. I have no idea if they would or wouldn't. I literally have no idea. Um, I I'd say the only reason I said it was possible is because they did it for the tryout, but that doesn't mean I believe that they actually done it.
Right.
I'm just acknowledging the possibility of it. I personally don't think that they did. That's where I'm at on that.
See, I was gonna say we could bet, and you would bet, and if you're wrong, what you would have to do is a 48-hour video game stream.
48-hour video games
non-stop. and I would laugh, and I'd be like, "Oh, look, it's breakfast time. Hey, Josiah, how are you doing?" Then I'm like, "Oh, Josiah, I'm going to bed. Have a good night." And you're still there streaming video games.
Damn it! I mean, it was fun, I suppose. I suppose I can have fun.
Well, it'll be fun for the first 12 hours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
After 12 hours, that's
I would get really tired after that.
The same order, just walking in one direction but not going anywhere because you're asleep on the button. So,
Yeah.
what's your top?
As far as it goes in New Japan, I actually don't recall even what we were talking about with that, but I can give you a summary of what's going on in New Japan, at least in terms
Sure.
of that.
Did you have a topic? Maybe it wasn't New Japan, it was just a regular topic.
I can't even remember. My brain. I've had a really busy few days, so my brain is kind of fried.
If you give us an update in Japan, I do have one other topic. I just thought of it.
Okay. So not a major update, but I did notice the vaccinations are over 50% now in Japan, so they are creeping up very quickly, and now that they're starting to roll them out effectively, and we're probably going to see normal crowds back in Japan within the next few months, hopefully by Wrestle Kingdom, because I expect by the end of the year we're going to be seeing Japan probably around 75-80% vaccinated, and that it would have only took them 5 to 6 months to do it. So I had faith that once they started doing it, they were going to be able to do it well. The New Japan G1 started, and it's still with the restrictions of fans being masked and only allowed to clap. But the match quality has been excellent, even if the hype around it has not been as high as previous years. We had Ishii and Shingo, which was just two guys hitting each other really hard for nearly 30 minutes. And that's my kind of wrestling. So I haven't seen that match yet, but I've heard it was really good. Okada and Tanahashi, of course, was great. Naito and Zack Sabre Jr. was really good, but Naito got injured, so he had to pull out. And he's legitimately injured. So he forfeited all his matches in the G1. The New Japan USA partnership is working very well with a lot of guys over in the US as well. Minoru Suzuki doing his tour and becoming an absolute superstar in everywhere he goes. I cannot wait to see him and Lance Archer versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston in a lights out match. That's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a wild, probably bloody brawl. So that's going to be fun. And as far as the New Japan goes in terms of they seem to be doing fine in their ticket sales with the restrictions that they have. A lot of people seem to be acting like New Japan is in like this major downturn of business and they've lost momentum like Ring of Honor has, and that's nothing could be further from the truth than that. They're doing fine. They're not doing great, but they're doing fine. And the booking is still relatively good as well, minus them pushing Evil as often as they do. His gimmick is not working. But as far as COVID goes, they seem to be handling it just as well as always. All their shows are mask mandate required, and they're very open about that before you buy a ticket. Every single show they do is mask mandate. And they're probably going to eventually introduce a vaccine mandate as well. But they're being very proactive, and I think they're slowly starting to get back to where they were before the pandemic, especially with the match quality in the G1.
All right. So we're gonna end the topic or this episode with this topic. So recently, it was announced very recently, actually, about this deal with AEW and Owen Hart. or the Owen Hart Foundation, I should say. Bill, why don't you give a little bit of a summary of what that includes before I bring up the actual topic?
Yeah, let me
Or what
actually
you can remember, at least.
Actually, I have the press release here.
Okay.
All Elite Wrestling and the Owen Hart Foundation, a nonprofit charity which provides a vast range of assistance and opportunities to individuals in need across the world, are collaborating to honor the legacy of late wrestler Owen Hart, a beloved figure in the professional wrestling community and beyond. This collaboration includes launching the annual Owen Hart Cup tournament within AEW, which will see the winner receive a cup known as the Owen, as well as the production and distribution of unique and original Owen Hart merchandise, including specified retail goods, as well as the upcoming AEW console video game. This alliance incorporates opportunities to develop Owen Hart action figures via AEW's partnership with Jazzwares, apparel, posters, and additional collectible merchandise. Owen Hart is survived by his wife, Dr. Martha Hart, who spearheads the Owen Hart Foundation with a mission of providing global aid to at-risk communities, including scholarships, housing, various forms of international assistance, food drives, backpack giveaways, and Christmas projects. Tony Khan said AEW's relationship with the Hart family dates back to our inaugural pay-per-view event, Double or Nothing, in 2019, and Owen's influence is still felt today. To extend his memory and his legacy even further through this agreement is a powerful and meaningful moment for the entire wrestling community.
All right, so before we I get to the actual topic and how I'm going to tie all this together, I do want to say this is great. I'm very happy for Martha Hart and AEW that they're both able to get this done. We've been waiting for some kind of tribute for Owen Hart. Like, there's been, maybe I'm misremembering this. Didn't Bill, you would probably know this more than me. Okay. Didn't he get inducted into the Cauliflower Hall of Fame or something like that?
He got inducted into, I want to say Cauliflower, and then I think there's another Hall of Fame in Iowa that I think he got inducted.
Is that Waterloo?
I believe so.
Okay, so I just want to throw it out there. Clearly, Martha has been open to honoring Owen Hart in wrestling. It's just not with WWE. Which is very understandable, which I've talked about at length various times. So I am very happy that they're able to do it on a bigger stage. Now, here's where I'm going to tie COVID into things here. We had talked before we went on the air on when it could be. Do you wait maybe even a year for restrictions to, get lowered as low as they possibly can, because you might want to get people from all over the world to be part of this tournament? And also, as Josiah mentioned, he wouldn't expect to see people from the United States into Canada very soon. And I think some might argue that when you think Owen Hart tournament, you have to at least do one of the rounds, if not the final round, in Canada. What do you guys think?
So I agree. I think you have to do the final round in Calgary. Mm-hmm. I think that is the right place to do it. As for the Hall of Fame he's in he's in 3 Hall of Fames actually.
Okay.
He's in the Prairie Wrestling Alliance Hall of Fame, class of 2010, the Legends of Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2011, and the George Thragos Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's the one in Iowa, 2018. And he's also, I'm actually surprised. I guess it makes sense. He didn't have he was never a top guy in the business, so he wouldn't be in the Observer Hall of Fame. But
right.
That said, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am about this. And all the bad faith actors saying Owen, they should have honored him in WWE or whatever. They do not understand.
No, they don't.
WWE has done to this family. They do not understand. It is their fault that Owen Hart is dead, and I cannot blame Martha Hart in the least for protecting the legacy of her husband. We all of us would be fortunate to have something like Martha in our life that would care for us and protect us that much after we died.
Yeah, I don't think like wrestlers typically, history shows, will take the biggest payday that they can for anything. And I think that's why she's been able to preserve the legacy, is because she's not in the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, she's a normal person.
I mean, think about this. Like, I saw someone say online, like, it should be one of the Hart brothers that do it, or one of them said Brett. I'm like, man, if that was the case, that he would have already sold Owen to WWE if it was a wrestler. Are you kidding me?
But Brett's kind of been as bad as WWE has been to Martha.
Well, that's the whole. Yeah, well, that's another wrinkle in the story that will probably be traveled out at a later date.
Saying Brett's been as bad to her is probably a little much. There's tension between the two, but I don't think there's hatred. I just think there's a recognition that there was a divide there, and that it would take a lot to heal it. Because they settled the lawsuit, and Brett, she wanted to go all the way to trial, and that was where the division happened. And I get it, and she was hurt when Brett went back to WWE as well. I would be too. Yeah.
That's the day my childhood hero died on January 4th, 2010. I was so disappointed in him with that.
I was disappointed that he went back too. But she talked about it openly on Wrestling Observer Radio, where like she doesn't have any ill will or even a grudge towards Brett, and like there have been times where they've run into each other out and about in Alberta, and they're very polite to each other and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like it's hatred or anything like that between the two.
In other words, they're not going to have a big party together, but they will civilly talk in a room together, basically.
Yes. And the truth is too, Martha has made it clear she wanted her kids to know their family. So like if they ran into any of the Hart family outside of the home, like don't shun your uncles and aunts and stuff like that. Don't do that. Like be nice to them and update them on how you're doing and all this. So
be better than what that last generation was, basically.
Yeah.
The Harts always feuded with each other, even Bruce Hart, how many times did he try to lobby for a job by trying to talk him into?
Jeez, and that's why, and especially, and obviously they're going to focus mostly on Brett because he was the
top guy.
He's the top guy, right? He's the biggest star from that family, and truly, legitimately one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
And
so he's always going to be in the conversation. What's that?
And Owen's best feud.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And we all know, and I think Martha put it this way in her WOR thing. I could be putting words in her mouth, so don't quote me on this.
Sure.
But she did talk about she knows Brett loved Owen dearly, and they both really truly love Owen, but she has been so relentless in protecting him and his legacy that I have to say I have a lot of respect for her and how she's done it. She's not messing around with this stuff.
No.
It was interesting. Like even WWE, hello, cat. I don't know if you can hear him meowing in the background, but he's yelling.
Oh, no.
But
I told you that was your new name for Bill, Cat.
No. Yes.
Bearcat.
Yes. Bearcat Bill.
Yes.
They released an Owen Hart DVD without her permission. Mm-hmm. And she sued them for it because they have to use it with her permission if they're making any money off of it.
I didn't even know that. When did that come out?
It was in 2010, something like there. and it was scheduled to go to trial in June 2013, but WWE settled it in April 2013 because they didn't want it to go to trial, because they know to trial everything that happened is going to go on public record. WWE does not want that because it makes them look horrible, and rightfully so. I mean, at the very least, they're guilty of manslaughter. At the very least, and so I'm very, very proud of her for standing up to that. And I mean, this is a woman who still keeps the name Hart. She never remarried. She's a very well-educated doctor. She is a very smart and very generous woman who has protected the legacy of Owen so well, and now she has found a way to let wrestling fans honor and remember him well.
Yes.
And I think that is awesome. Because I wouldn't want WWE to do an Owen Hart tournament. First off, they're going to screw it up with the booking.
Right.
Secondly, I don't want them making money of Owen Hart's name.
And that's the biggest problem there, I think, is that I have a feeling she would even be somewhat more flexible if somehow that they, like, it was 100% of the proceeds going to the charity, but WWE probably would not have anything to do with it, because they have to make sure that they get the recognition. They have to put him in their Hall of Fame, which doesn't mean anything. There's no credentials anyway. And I think that's real. I wouldn't be surprised if she would have been like, all right, if you really want, let's have it 100% go to the charity, anything that's made. And they probably would. There's no way they would do that.
Martha's quote in the Hall of Fame said, "It doesn't exist. There's nothing. It's fake. There's nothing real or tangible."
I mean, it doesn't exist physically, but also doesn't exist in my mind, because, because what are the no one could give me.
There's no
credentials at all. Like, what? Find me a pattern on why someone's inducted.
The qualifications for getting into the WWE Hall of Fame is Vince wants you in to make money.
Yep.
That's it. And that's fine. That's fine. And it does honor the careers of people and things like that. But a real wrestling Hall of Fame requires voting, requires oversight has conditions upon people being voted.
Right.
And that's probably why Owen Hart is not in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. A lot of people think it's Dave Meltzer that controls it. No, he doesn't.
No,
it's voted by journalists and wrestlers and other notable wrestling historians all around the world every year, including people who don't like Dave that vote. Because it's kind of viewed as one of the real wrestling Hall of Fames, like the Cauliflower Alley Club as well, and it's one of those things where if they honor you, that's pretty real. But it's like those ones have real conditions, like you have to be a draw for a certain amount of time. Not everyone gets added to the ballot.
There's not celebrities as part of it. Oh, here's another one. This is one I think might apply to some other Hall of Fames, but I've always personally been annoyed by you can get in there twice.
Yeah. Right, that the Rock and Roll. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've had that.
We've had that, but the one example you bring up, I'm okay with, because it's a different genre of music, and that. Who was it again? Who was it?
Eric Clapton.
What was his other genre of music? There was a hip hop person for some reason.
Is there?
I thought that's who you bring up, but I thought there was like one that had two very different genres of music. I'm like, you know what? That I'm okay with, because a rock audience and a hip hop audience are two different audiences. The people that watch Razor Ramon and Scott Hall are the same audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bill, before we talk about this topic, because I definitely want to get back to it about when this Owen Hart thing, if it should wait, do you want to give your thoughts, like Josiah did, on the Owen Hart situation with AEW?
Well, I want to say this, because up until last year, actually,
Dark Side,
I was on the side of Owen should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I was. Like, Jim could tell you for years.
Yeah.
I was like, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Martha's, blah, 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 blah. After I watched that episode, and not only hearing from Martha, but also from his kids, I was like, you know what? I'm at ease. I can respect their wishes. If they don't want it, then they don't want it, and I'll be fine with it. I really am. And I apologized on my podcast. I actually did apologize. I think the tournament is a great idea, and I think it's a good way for younger fans, because there are some younger fans that watch AEW who might not have seen Owen Hart or
Absolutely.
heard of Owen Hart, and this would be a good way to be like, you want to learn more about Owen Hart, go to YouTube, watch this stuff, watch that stuff. And I would just presume that all the money from the shows that happen during the tournament, whenever they happen, will go to the Owen Hart Foundation. I 100% assume that. As far as the tournament itself goes, I don't know when it should be held. If they do it at the end of the year, I mean, honestly, I'm fine with whenever they do it. I think the final match, and I think Josiah, might have been you who said it, the final match should be in Canada. If it's Calgary, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal, wherever, as long as that final match.
Selfishly, I'll say Halifax or Moncton.
There you go. Just as long as that final match is in Canada, and it could be an every year thing, have the final match be in Canada. And it just, I mean, and you just think about what AEW has done in the last year alone. The Brody Lee tribute, helping his family out. And that evolved into CM Punk eventually coming back, because Punk said when he saw that tribute show, it made him realize they care about people. Unlike WWE, where it's like, if somebody dies, they'll give them a tribute show and then they just move on. And I think this is a good way of, you do this, maybe down the line. I'm not saying Owen's kids will do it, because I think they're both in their 30s and Oj is a lawyer. Maybe the next generation of Hearts will want to wrestle, and it could end up at AEW.
I don't know. Like, I totally. I have to be like, when I think of it, on all the stuff that happened to that Hart family, from between the Owen thing and Brett getting screwed over at Montreal. I just don't know how some of those kids wound up becoming wrestlers. Because if I was a kid, I'd be like, I hate this business now. But I'm hoping what this might do, you're right, is the next generation will look and go, oh, I love this business now.
And it's like it's really interesting how AEW handled the Brody situation, with being very private about what happened with Brody and not releasing any information, and that tribute show where they showed they really care about this family, and they're still caring about this family.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure every dollar sold on a Brody Lee shirt still goes to them.
Probably. I can see that.
I have no idea what it was when they signed -1 to that 10-year contract or whatever it was.
Did you know he got put in GM mode?
Yes, I did. Yes.
That's wonderful.
And maybe, but truthfully, maybe they are actually using that to give money to the family as well. So I don't really know, but regardless of what it is, they are treating that family very, very well, and I think it's telling that they protected Brody's legacy really well as well. And I think that is something that is going to resonate very strongly with someone like Martha Hart or Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, which is they both named that as reasons why they came. Um, which that's telling you something right there. And they got a deal with Martha Hart and CM Punk within a few months of each other. That's very telling about the backstage environment of that company.
Mhm. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
Still here.
okay. I thought you dropped out again. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, like I said, I think that they should definitely wait because, like Josiah said, Canada is not really taking any visitors, right? If I remember right.
We are allowing people who are show proof of double vaccination, and I do know that much. But it's really hard to do an event right now because we don't have concrete rules on
Right.
attendance and things for that yet. I would expect that to emerge by the new year.
See, this is why I'm thinking this thing's not even going to start until at least the spring of next year.
And I would be okay. They honestly, starting it in like March of 2022, and using it as a tournament to determine who faces the champion at Double or Nothing. You can run a 2-month tournament easily with their television shows, and culminate it at the finals before Double or Nothing on TV. Do the finals in Canada if it's open. I mean, for the first time, because it's a pandemic, if they run it sooner rather than later, I'm fine with the finals being somewhere in the United States. But at some point, you got to do this in Canada.
Right.
I would prefer the first one to be in Canada. I think that would make the most sense. But regardless of how it ends up going, I expect. I'm just so happy as a fan of Owen. I was 14 I was 13 when Owen died, almost 14, and it was one of those moments where because I was a kid, I knew wrestling was fake, but Owen was a guy I loved to boo because he was such a good heel, and I remember at 13 years old crying when I read about the death of Owen Hart because it was like, man. This guy was one of my favorite villains, and I know it was just a gimmick, and this breaks my heart. And it really affected me. Eddie was the next one after that really affected me, and then probably Brody Lee after that. And to be able to say finally, especially from the perspective of a Canadian fan who has loved Owen Hart for most of my life, to be able to finally see him honored in this way is really moving for me.
All right, so with that in mind, let's give our final goodbyes. So I'll go me, then Josiah, and then Bill. You'll sign us out of here. For me, that's podcasting.com. That's podcasting on Instagram and Twitter. Me and Bill have Bill Learns Kingdom Hearts Season 2 coming this Sunday. And that's pretty much all for me. Josiah, why don't you give some plugs for yourself and then pass it to Bill?
So, speaking of Owen Hart, I'll start with that. I'm going to be writing an article very soon on Owen Hart and how him being honored by AEW is such a great thing, and just talk about Owen Hart's life and career and what it has meant to me as a fan for Daily DDT. So that is going to be up probably by the end of the week. I'll tweet it out on my account at WR_Central, so follow me there on Twitter if you want to see anything else that I write. I cover NWA Power and most AEW shows as well. Yeah, look for my stuff there. WrestlingObserver.com, DailyDDT.com as well.
All right. And you guys can check me on That Wrestling Show, which comes out each and every Friday. Also, I do a South Park podcast called Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast. Getting close to the 200th episode. Almost to the halfway of season 13, so I'm getting real close to hitting episode 200. And that's Oh, follow me on Twitter at House of Bill, and follow me on Instagram at Mr. Billiam85. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you all next time.